Some good news out of the UK. In fact, you can read this on the Washington Stand, where the use of puberty blockers for minors under the age of 18 has been indefinitely banned. That's right, no more. The decision announced yesterday follows a review by medical experts who've consistently highlighted significant safety concerns and noted the insufficient evidence on the drug's long-term effects. Now, critics argue that the ban is discriminatory, as puberty blockers remain available for other conditions. However, the British High Court upheld the restriction earlier this year, and the policy is set to be reviewed in 2027. So will this latest news receive the attention it deserves here in the United States, and might it shape policy here in our country going forward? Joining me now to discuss this, Dr. Jennifer Bauwens, the director of the Center for Family Studies here at FRC. Dr. Bauwens, thanks for joining me.
Good to be with you.
So this is some good news.
Yeah, it is good news. This is really good news, and it comes on the heels of country after country banning these, what's broadly referred to as gender-affirming care. And there's nothing really wonderful about it, so we shouldn't use the word care, right, because it's nothing about care.
So lay out exactly what was announced yesterday.
So yesterday, their version of like NIH or Health and Human Services said we are banning puberty blockers specifically. And earlier I mentioned gender-affirming care. So this is one aspect of gender-affirming care. It's what you would give to a child who has what's called precocious puberty, in a sense where they actually need these drugs. Right. We're talking about banning drugs that are not needed by children because they're normal. There's nothing unhealthy about these kids. And so we're intervening where there's no health problem.
And we're doing so in such a way that puts the children at risk, according to what these health experts have said in the UK.
Yes. So the health experts, they determined that basically the risks are not worth the benefits. And what they outlined for us is that, one, what I just said, that the risks are not worth the benefits, but they also said something interesting in that they really have not given attention or care to those who want to stop puberty blockers and what that effect has on a child, or those who want to reverse the effect of these puberty blockers. And that's also a very interesting thing because we're told in our country that these drugs have no negative effect and that puberty is completely reversible and all is well if you just decide that you want to stop this. And here the UK's scientific review is showing, no, that's not the case. And right. And you haven't even paid attention to this. You're allowing children to go on these puberty blockers and very harmful drugs without attention to these basic things.
So, Dr. Bauwens, it appears as we look at what is coming out of the UK and other countries actually as well, compared to the United States, they're citing a lack of evidence to support these interventions, experimental interventions, and the United States is just the movement here is just kind of ignoring the evidence.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's very interesting just in this whole conversation, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, but it's, as a researcher, it's pretty mind-blowing the fact that we have something that's a psychological intervention that's aimed at treating dysphoria. And here, with puberty blockers, we don't have any idea how that affects the psychology of a child who is suddenly halted from having a normal puberty. Right. And puberty is a time when you're supposed to not only understand more about your body, but how that interacts with the world around you. So sociologically, relationally, you're supposed to kind of grapple with that as your body is changing. So now we have this external intervention through a drug that's given to a child, and it's unnecessary. Mm-hmm. So we don't have any research that shows what's the impact of that. And that's a psychologically, and that's a primary question that should be asked.
Well, that's one of the points related to that they brought up in the UK, was that they want to reform their gender services and center around offering holistic support for patients and their families. So when I look at that holistic, that's body, mind, and soul. That's dealing with the emotions, that's dealing with the psychological implications of what may have led to this. But here in the United States, preceding what we have now with 26 states that have banned this or have restricted the use of these experimental drugs, we had some states that have banned counseling.
Right.
So you lock these kids in, and you don't allow the parents to get the help that the child needs, the child to get the help they need in dealing with the underlying psychosis that's driving this.
Right. And so there's just in that, we know that there's a real ideological push to get these kids to go down the path of transgenderism.
And lock them in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we know some of the cases that are coming out that these kids were coming into some of the gender clinics with all kinds of pre-existing issues and traumas, and they weren't offered a single session or a proper evaluation. They were just told, this is a good path for you.
So do you see this study, we only got about a minute left, do you see this study having implications for policy here in the United States?
I am hopeful that it will have implications for the U.S. because, as the evidence grows, as people continue to do more and more systematic reviews, and they look at the literature and they see the evidence is lacking, and then the countries are in their policies are pulling away from these quote-unquote gender-affirming care, I think we're going to see pressure put on the U.S. to follow suit.
Well, let's hope that is the case. Dr. Jennifer Bauwens, always great to see you.
Good to be with you, Tony.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, too.
I couldn't tell it was Christmas.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, the red and green. All right.